It is the 3-year anniversary of the fall of Afghanistan. Afghanistan being taken over by the Taliban, who still control it to this day. And, I got out of the Marine Corps shortly after I got back from Iraq in 2004, right? I never went to Afghanistan. I was a Marine in Iraq. I got back in 2004. And I get out of the Marines. I moved down to Arizona, start doing construction, and I'm having some stomach issues after I got back. I'm fine, don't worry about it. But I was having just some issues, no big deal. And I start going to the VA hospital. Now, this is probably 05, I would guess, 04, 05. I start going to the VA fairly regularly. And remember, this is super, super early in the global war on terror. As I'm in the VA for these appointments, you're always waiting in the lobby. It's government healthcare, so it is what it is. But you're waiting here, you're waiting there. I was almost always the youngest patient or one of the very few younger patients in the room. You'd be sitting there waiting for your appointment, and you would look around, and the dudes in the room, they're all old-timers. There's Vietnam vets and Korean War vets and World War II vets. Everyone has gray hair and wrinkles, and here I am, 25, 26 years old, and, I loved sitting there hanging with the guys. I loved talking to those guys, so that part of it was great, but I kept going for a couple years, trying to get things figured out, trying to figure out what was wrong with my stomach. And it made such an impact on me to this day. I don't think I'll ever forget watching that lobby, watching that waiting room get younger and younger and younger as I kept going. And instead of it just being some salty old timer with a USS, whatever, pick his naval vessel from World War II, instead of just him being in a wheelchair down the hall, there were a lot of dudes who looked like me in a wheelchair going down the hall. Maybe without a foot, a hand, an arm, both legs. Burn victims. And they were my age then, and they're my age now. So now, if they're still alive, Lord willing they are, they're 43 years old, and they've lived 20 years of their lives without legs. Imagine coming back from Afghanistan missing 2 legs, maybe a hand too, and living for 20 years needing assistance to get in the shower. You don't ever get to play baseball with your kid. You are, because of the physical damage you've gone through, and I know there are vets listening to me right now who are in the middle of this, because of the physical things you gave up for this country, the rest of your life, you will be denied certain things that other people get to do. By the grace of God, and only by the grace of God, I came back with all my body parts. But in Afghanistan and Iraq, but we're talking about Afghanistan right now, there's a lot of blood, American blood on that soil. A lot of guys, a lot of men and women, they didn't come home. A lot of men and women came home maimed, and I don't mean with a little cough. I don't mean with a hangnail. They came home giving up huge parts of the rest of their life in that country. And I am still, when I think about it too long, feel the same about Iraq, I should note, but when I think about it too long, it creates first sadness and then so much anger and rage in me that it's probably unhealthy. I don't think I'm actually in a very healthy place, because those men and women are so wonderful. And the people who put them in that position, who led them, military leaders, politicians, Republican and Democrat, they did them so wrong. 20 years of not even being able to define the mission. Remember, it's one of the only decent things the Washington Post has ever done. Remember the Afghanistan papers? If you are a patriot and fancy yourself as being a reader, or maybe you want to be a bit of a reader, I can't believe I'm doing this. I want to encourage you to go read the Afghanistan papers from the Washington Post. And remember when we talked about that on this show, from the earliest days, it's not like it's just something that came when the Biden administration got there. From the earliest days, the leadership at the highest levels didn't even know what the mission was. We have direct quotes from Donald Rumsfeld. I'm not even sure what we're doing here. And we had our guys guarding poppy fields over there. In fact, there are stories, more than one, of a Marine, a soldier, doing damage to a poppy field. Remember, poppy fields, that's heroin. That's how they make heroin. Doing damage to a poppy field and getting reprimanded for it. Remember that story of the Green Beret? In parts of Afghan culture, there's this real sick thing where they prey on young boys. And somebody we were working with in training started preying on a young boy. This Green Beret friggin' had enough of it, went and handled his business, and the Green Beret got in trouble for it. 20 years of an undefined mission while men and women were dying and being maimed. And then when it finally came to an end, the Biden administration, remember this, it didn't get a lot of pub, but I told you what was happening at the time, and it turned out to be true. The Biden administration just decided to yank everyone out one day without any kind of an evac plan, without any kind of a plan at all. Why did they do it so quickly? They did it because they wanted a bump in the poll numbers for the 20th anniversary of Afghanistan, of 9/11. They wanted to be able to throw Joe Biden a parade that would help his poll numbers. So instead of doing it methodically and evacing from Bagram where our people could have been safe, they just shipped everyone out of town one day. And the country, of course, collapses, even though we've been training these useless Afghan security forces for years. The country goes tits up immediately and collapses immediately. And then the Biden administration doesn't get the bump in the polls they thought they wanted, even though Joe was on freaking vacation during all this.
Where is the president? You know, why isn't he communicating wholesomely to the American people?
The president has been deeply engaged in all of the policy conversations.
Totally different story than a few weeks ago, right? I mean, why isn't he out there now? Kabul fell yesterday. Where is the president?
Brianna, the president has spoken to this extensively, and I expect that he will speak to it again soon.
Soon, in the coming days, should we hear something from him today? Do you expect that? It seems like the moment demands that.
I'm not going to get ahead of both decision-making and...
President was on the beach. Anthony Blinken was on vacation. And then after they scrambled because their poll numbers suffered, they sent Marines, soldiers, and sailors into harm's way outside of an airport, and 13 of them are gone and they'll never come back. Their parents don't ever get another Christmas with them. They'll never be husbands, fathers, wives. We lost a lovely young lady in that blow up too. And when these people had to meet them and the families, Joe Biden was so checked out, uninterested, and bored, he spent the entire time checking his watch for when he could go back to eat some ice cream in the White House. And I only wanted to talk about this because I just wanted to extend, I didn't even have the words. I wanted to extend my best to every man and woman who sacrificed their time, their blood, their friends, their relatives. I know we have a bunch of those people listening, and if you did, I'm sorry. I'm sorry your country didn't do you better than it did. I have so much respect for you and your sacrifice and what you went through, and I'm sorry. So that's all. That's all I wanted to say.